I'm not kidding here. Ben Stein, our favorite economist, believes it is time to rescue Greece, or in his elegant turn of phrase, Ben Stein believes Washington needs to play a quote-unquote leadership role in Europe's financial crisis. Ben, we're going to give you this much here because I thought you did a pretty fantastic job in setting the whole thing up. So before we talk, let me just walk through what you explained. So you explain how Greece owes the European banks, right? They own a lot of the debt.
The European banks own a lot of stock and debt in Greek banks, and if those banks fail, that's going to be a problem for the European banks. The European banks own a lot of the Greek state debt. If that fails, that's going to be a big problem for the European banks.
And then the U.S. banks.
The U.S. banks own a lot of those European banks. It's like those cartoons they used to have in the New Yorker all the time of the big fish eating the little fish, eating the still smaller fish. And we're the big fish who's going to get food poisoning at the end of the day from those failed banks in Greece and possibly also in Spain and Italy.
What happens as we are the big fish ultimately eating the little teeny tiny fish and getting the food poisoning? What exactly does that do to us?
One, it makes the stock market go down as bank stocks go down. Two, it makes the banks reluctant to lend, just as they were after the horrible, horrible crises in 2008, where the government screwed up royally by not rescuing Lehman Brothers. That was the biggest domestic policy mistake of the post-war era. Third, it sours an already extremely bad consumer and investor mood, so that whatever money is left in this country, and there's quite a lot left, it does not get invested or spent. So it has many bad effects.
So your solution that you're prescribing is something that has already made a lot of my Twitter followers moan and groan in 140 characters or less. What is your solution, sir?
Well, we have what's called the International Monetary Fund. The U.S. dominates the International Monetary Fund. We have a monetary crisis in Southern Europe. The IMF should step in with its enormous borrowing and lending power and lend money and stabilize Greece, stabilize Spain, stabilize Italy. Eventually, they'll get that money back. And even if they don't get it back, the costs of doing it are trivial compared with the cost of another downward leg of the recession, which could happen.
So you're saying kind of like you liken it to the Marshall Plan after World War II.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's post-war, and I know that was multiple nations, but, you know, you think Germany specifically, and they all did extraordinarily well once the U.S. helped them out. Of course, that was named after the Secretary of State at the time. But when you think of that, you know, you think of Angela Merkel and Germany, and they're doing pretty well right now. So my question then to you to push back, hang on, then why should we step up if she will not? I mean, if someone's going to dole out a Marshall Plan here, why not the Germans?
Well, they should do it. They absolutely should do it. They owe an awful lot to Greece. They did a lot of damage to Greece in years past. But because if nobody else does it, we should do it to protect ourselves. I'm not doing this for the Greeks, although the Greeks are a fine, wonderful people. But I'm doing it for the United States of America, for the people of the United States who do not need another credit crunch coming right after the one in 2008 and the one that's still ongoing. Try to get a home loan. Try to get a home loan. It's not that easy to do. And let's bail out America by bailing out Southern Europe. And we've got the international means to do it easily, and it won't cost the taxpayers anything.
You say help them, help us, but we've talked so much about Greece. I have to get in Spain because there's dire news. The unemployment rate, something like 25%. Their credit now is so bad it is having to pay close to 7% on its interest on its bonds. So is Spain now peering over this abyss, and does that increase pressure on us, on Washington, to play a leadership role, as you suggest?
Absolutely. Look, Spain is in real trouble, and they were running surpluses. You can't blame them for a sloppy fiscal policy. They were running surpluses. They had a property collapse even worse than our property collapse in the U.S. Of course we have to bail them out. They're the fourth largest Eurozone economy. If the Germans are too short-sighted to do it, then we have to do it for our own good, also because the Spaniards are fine people, but for our own good to keep a generalized collapse in the Western industrialized economies from happening. That will be very, very bad news. And we don't need any of this hypocrisy about morality and about moral hazard. We need to bail these countries out to save ourselves.
I am so curious what our viewers think. Will you tweet me at BrookeBCNN? Let me know what you think of Ben Stein's Marshall Plan 2.0.